Average Podcast, the only AA meeting worth attending and the only refuge for the above average, the slightly above average. I'm your host, Lake, and with me as always is my co-host, Tanim. Tanim, how you doing?
Good, you?
Not too bad. Some interesting things happened in the last week. So we're just coming off International Women's Day, the Meghan Markle Prince Harry interview. It's a lot of interesting things to cover today. So let's jump right into it. But I think you wanted to talk about just before we get into the HR issues of royalty, you wanted to get into the HR issues of the
Reality?
workplace. You wanted, yeah, reality, as some of us call it. What do you think makes a good coworker, and what are red flags to watch out for?
I mean, having to do just that came up because having to do kind of like performance reviews in the past, and like you just kind of asked to like kind of judge people based on performance and what makes them a good coworker. So, I mean, for me, it's definitely someone who's puts kind of their best foot forward, regardless of if it's in their job description or not. I mean, like, not everything that you're asked to do is in a job description, and like people kind of go out of their way to help each other. It's definitely a good sign. I don't know. What do you think about on your end?
Oh, so well, my perspective on that has changed now that I've spent a little more time at my own workplace. Well, it changes depending on what stage I am at my own workplace. So when you start out, you like you always like the guys who know what they're doing and are happy to answer your questions and kind of show you how to do things. But then once you're in that position yourself, you kind of want people who can figure things out themselves. Right. And you don't have to answer too many questions for, and you can kind of get on with your own work and not have to do theirs. But I understand, and you have to be patient with people who are still learning, because we were all there.
Yeah, definitely in the beginning, starting point.
But I always appreciate people who have like an attitude of all right, let me try and figure this out first, and then I'll start bugging people. Right. Then I'll start asking people. But on the other hand, like there's only so long you can kind of spin your wheels, and usually it is faster just to ask people. It's just there's kind of a very fine line between what's appropriate and what's excessive. I don't know that I really have like a good rule of thumb for it.
It definitely depends person to person.
Yeah, because if you don't know something, you don't know it, and that's not your fault. You just you're in the job, but never have to ask the same thing like 3 times.
Yeah, it's definitely happened.
No, definitely, because 2 times totally fine. Like first time you ask, second time you kind of forget, have to do it again. Or if it's kind of like a thing you only have to do once every quarter, then you can kind of get away with asking quarterly.
And then it depends on
as long as you don't
how busy you are that day, right? So you might be super swamped, and then get easily frustrated when someone asks you the same thing. Whereas,
I know.
If it's a slow day, you're like, you know what? I'll deal with this.
Exactly. And you kind of have to be a little self-critical in that you have to think am I annoyed with this person because they're being unreasonable, or am I just annoyed because I'm busy and it feels like everything's kind of falling on top of me and this is just one more thing. Yeah, so that's something you should definitely watch out for, just in that you should know when you're being hard on people just because you yourself are having a rough day.
Right.
So that's another thing. And I try not to be short with people. And if you are busy, just tell people instead of being annoyed with them. Just be like, I'm busy today. We can set up a meeting later, and I can show this to you, or ask someone else. If you're still having trouble, then come back to me. So that's been something I've been learning about in the last year or two.
Right.
I don't know if there's if I necessarily have any hidden red flags in employees or coworkers that beyond the obvious, people don't do their work, people like don't take notes, people don't listen, that sort of thing. But I don't know what do you have any more subtle ones?
As in red flags, people not crediting certain people with certain projects, so like they'll just leave them out or completely like take credit for their work.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Um, Definitely dislike kiss asses who just kind of like yes people to their bosses and just completely agree with everything they say, even though behind their backs they'll be like, I want things to be done this way or this way, but then
Yeah.
they're just completely opposite when their boss speaks up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's hard to criticize your boss or tell your boss they're wrong, especially because you don't always know if you're in the wrong. Like your boss might you might think your boss is right on something, but then you think to yourself, okay, maybe this guy's more experienced than me. Maybe they're actually so you're always hesitant to criticize your boss in that way, just because like the assumption is like they know what they're doing, but everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes bosses are wrong, and it's it can be tricky to actually tell them that.
Right. I mean, but I just mean like you should always kind of voice your opinion because I mean that's kind of why
Oh yeah.
you've got hired and your perspective, and like even if they disagree, it's just like you can kind of just tell them this is how I see things, and you kind of go on from there.
Yeah, no, and then there's like the flip side of that, where like people get hired for their opinion, but then the bosses don't really listen, so that can I, I've seen that happen before, and that's
No,
that's
it
very
definitely happens a lot.
frustrating for people. Oh yeah, yeah. Like you hire like a person who's like an expert in their field, and like their job is to know more about this than you, the boss. And then but then when it comes down to it, if you don't listen, like it's disrespectful
Right.
to like their expertise in their job, because at that point it's like why are you paying this person to be here if you're not gonna take their advice?
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't have to listen to them all the time, but you do kind of have to hear them out on things. Especially if they're hired for a specific area of expertise, like something like, say, like they have like an education or a background in that you don't. Should always have
There's
an
definitely a
amount of
balancing act.
deference to people's expertise. Yeah, like they might, like, if you're an expert on like architecture, but um, your boss's complaint isn't like the architecture. It's like, and they're
Sales, yeah.
disagreeing with you on like the cost of something. That's something different. Yeah, but it's if you're coming in there and like talking to your architecture expert, and you're not an architect, and you're saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, then
Right.
that's just fucking rude. But yeah, no, it's that's more of a red flag for bosses though. But yeah, I guess bosses are technically
They
coworkers
just have a lot more
in a manner
authority.
of speaking. Yes, exactly. They're your coworkers, but they make more money than you, and they can tell you what to do, and they can fire you. But other than
Do you
that,
think interviews will be the same way post COVID, like doing Zoom meetings or what have you virtually as opposed to coming in and commuting to like an office?
yeah, that's a strange one, because I mean, the biggest difference is obviously, back when I used to do interviews before COVID, I'd have to get all dressed up, take all my stuff to the dry cleaner, get my special tie, re-Google how to tie a half Windsor knot, yeah, that sort of thing. So I would think it's a little easier. You don't have to be as concerned about like little things that might tip your bosses off, like, oh, my tie clip's not on straight, or my tie clip goes too far across my tie, or something like that.
And then
But
there's like the whole transportation commuting time to get to like
oh, I know.
office,
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back.
yeah, exactly. Like, you have to get to the building you've never seen before. You have to. So I think it might actually be easier. But just because like you don't have to go to like the security desk, explain who you are, get a badge, wait for the guy to come down and pick you up. awkwardly shake hands and awkwardly ride up in the elevator where you meet three more people and then do the interview.
Right.
Like it's you know, in some ways Zoom meetings are better. The only thing I would miss is you know, sometimes in interviews you get to show you around the office. You can kind of see where you'd be working, meet some of your future coworkers.
Right.
There's a lot more room for spontaneous interaction that there isn't with Zoom meetings. Like, it's not like your desk neighbor is just going to randomly pop on the Zoom call and just be like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm so and so. We're gonna be If you get the job, we're gonna be sitting next together." Like, you know, there's
It's a lot more
uh,
informal.
exactly. Yeah, as with, you know, work itself, what you miss in the digital in like a digital workplace is just that spontaneous interaction that you know, lets you meet new people or come up with new things or that sort of thing, come up with novel solutions, like just a, you know, break room thinking. It's part of that. There's a lack of spontaneity in the Zoom world.
Right. Do you think with interviews that we're gonna go back to handshakes? I know a lot of people might not want that, or like feel discouraged, or like get offended if someone reaches out for a handshake and they're like, I don't really want to touch your hand.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question because I don't know how the culture is going to shift, you know, once we're all vaccinated. Because, you know, for all I know, people could be desperate to going back to the way things were and things will immediately go back to normal. But on the other hand, it's been a year. And, you know, by the time everyone's vaccinated, it'll have been like almost a year and a half. So people might have gotten into habits that are hard to break.
Yeah, I think a lot of I guess it depends on what industry you're in, but I feel like a lot of like the corporate financial kind of sector will go back to the handshakes, and maybe the creative side they might not. They'll be like, you know, keep your distance,
Fur
and
Yeah.
only because like I've had people who would reach out to me and because they want business cards, and some people are like, you know, I think business cards are done with, and I feel like it depends on the industry. Like this person ran a construction company, so that's pretty much their only way to kind of get the word out of what they do because they're not really digitally savvy. So
Hmm.
I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense for some people, but
Yeah, no, yeah, a lot of business, especially like small local stuff, like you know, like your local electrician or local roofer. Like I think a lot of that's still word of mouth.
right,
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it'd be interesting, like what stays after the pandemic and what doesn't. You know, I've heard some people saying like, can we after the pandemic's over, can we go back? Can we not go back to spitting all over birthday cake when it's your birthday and handing it out all over the office?
right.
Because that was actually gross the whole time. And then maybe in flu season it'll be normal to wear masks again, like at least on like the subway or in crowded malls or something like that.
I think a lot of
Or
people will be less likely to like share foods.
yeah, I wonder. It's yeah, no, that's I'm reluctant to make predictions because every prediction I've made about the pandemic so far has been wrong. It's a you know, I thought at the beginning like it was just going to be like SARS and that like there's going to be a big panic, not too many people are going to die and then world travel will get shut down, but you know, ultimately it'll go back to normal pretty quickly.
Right.
But yeah, it's no, this time was different. This time was very different. And I think like the larger financial implications are probably going to be for commercial real estate, just because you're going to have companies, I think, switch to hot desking. Like a lot of accounting firms do this where they'll have a bunch of desks in a building, but none of the desks will belong to a specific person.
Right.
Like you just have to book it and you just set up your laptop there for that day. You know, 3 days out of the week you work from home or you work in with regards to accounting firms a lot of the time auditors will work off site. You know, they'll be at someone else's office, like sitting in a conference room doing their audits, but they won't spend most of their time like at the main like Ernst and Young or KPMG office because like I said, they're on site, so they don't really need a permanent desk. So for that, it's worked for them.
Yeah.
But kind of expand to other industries where they say like, okay, you stay home 3 days a week, you stay home 3 days a week, and then we only have like a third of the office in at one time.
Yeah, they can just rotate staff.
Exactly. And then in that case, you're going to see like a massive shrinking in demand for at least office space real estate, which is unfortunate for every company that bought or paid for giant office space buildings. Like CIBC just built a massive tower that must have cost them hundreds of millions of dollars next to Union Station. So that's unfortunate timing on their part. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people
They might just
like
rent it out.
person. Yeah, that's true. The problem is to who, because like you might need to get more creative in what you use office space for. Because if you use less office space, then so does everyone else. So then at the very least, rental for office space becomes cheaper.
Yeah.
Like some things you can't outsource to home. Like fulfillment centers, you can't fulfillment centers for Amazon, you can't move anywhere. Ooh, speaking of fulfillment centers, one of the hilarious things about Amazon is apparently very good place to work if you work in corporate. But
not if you work in the warehouse.
No, not at all. So the hilarious part about it, so I had someone I know who I cannot say the name of recently accepted a job there, and they were going through their contract, and there's this. They got to the section about benefits, and the number of times the sentence does not include fulfillment center employees is hilarious. So it's this dental benefits, this pharmaceutical benefits, this whatchamacallit benefits, but not if you're a warehouse employee. It's weirdly way more brazen than I thought it was. What I would have expected is that they would just give people separate contracts and not give people the same contract, but just say like, oh no, you don't get this. That just feels like rubbing it in their faces.
Right.
So it's a cut out the company there. Yeah, no, I didn't expect them to rub it in their faces that much.
I mean, that's probably how they save a lot of money.
Oh yeah, true. But it's just funny that like they seem to be like kind of Silicon Valley is kind of weird because they're notorious for treating their programmers well and their office workers well, or at least maybe not well, but like give them generous pay and benefits in compensation for working ridiculous hours. But then on the other hand, they're really notorious for screwing their blue collar employees, like whether it's people not being able to take bathroom breaks in fulfillment centers, or like Apple phones being made in massive factories in China that have to have suicide nets, kind of thing. So it's a sorry.
There's no marketing campaign for that.
The suicide nets. Yeah. Oh, I can just see if Foxconn was an American company, they would definitely twist that. They would be like, we care about our employees' mental health. That's why we put suicide nets.
There's always a way to spin it.
Exactly. Speaking of which, International Women's Day came, and there was some great blunders, some beautiful blunders on that. Ones that I will enjoy mocking well until the next International Women's Day. And I wonder if it'll be a lesson for everyone about not pretending to care, because pretending to care really is worse than not caring at all.
Especially when it's just like one day a year.
No, exactly.
So what about the rest of the days?
Exactly. No, exactly. Like, and it's weird that like they invent these days to be kind of like they've essentially turned it to obligatory tweet days. Like you got to make, like, you don't really do anything that day. You just like get your marketing team to make a specially crafted tweet for that specific day. Black History Month is like that in the corporate world as well. Like no company actually does anything, but like except for like the marketing team, where they have to curate a tweet or a post on LinkedIn talking about how the company has contributed to the Black community without actually contributing.
Same thing with Pride.
Yeah, that too. And fun fact I learned this International Women's Day. You ever have anyone say, "Oh, it's International Women's Day"? Well, what about International Men's Day? Where's International Men's Day? Turns out there is an International Men's Day, and it's in November. I don't actually know that.
You're just making it up.
No, I'm not making it up. Hold on. International Men's Day 2021. Oh yeah, okay. So it's International Men's Day is November 19th. So the hilarious part about it is that and International Men's Day is for it's for celebrating better relations between men and women, and also social and economic issues that affect men, like suicide, prostate cancer, that sort of thing. Like it's not like a day some dick came up with to actually
Counter, yeah.
to be like, oh, we need to celebrate men and men's achievements, that sort of thing. So it's not like that. But the hilarious part is, no one knows it's there, and people only Google International Men's Day in March when it's International Women's Day. So no one actually cares about guys will say, why is there no International Men's Day? And you can say, there is an International Men's Day, it's in November. And then they'll say, well, I've never heard of it. It's because you only care about International Men's Day when it's International Women's Day, and you want to be a dick.
Right.
So it's really funny if you look at Googling trends of International Men's Day. Like almost no one Googles it in November because it's an obscure day, but people always Google it in March, and I think I just contributed to that.
I mean, no one mentioned
Yeah.
International Women's Day until it was Women's Day.
Yeah. Wait. So when was International Women's Day? Like, when did that become? Is it just with the rise of social media that companies felt like they had to, at least make statements about International Women's Day?
No, I think it existed a long time ago, like 1900s.
Yeah, no, it's like funny enough, it's a irony of ironies. International Women's Day, despite being a very corporate, or at least it feels very much like a corporate day. It was organized by the Socialist Party of America in 1909.
Right.
So it's it has its origins as it's like May Day or Labor Day. It has strong like early 20th century kind of syndicalist socialism origins. Yeah, no, it's ironic that the day would become so corporate. I actually the low hanging fruit of this whole thing is obviously Burger King, but there's another tweet I wanted to talk about, and that's Oreo. Oreo's tweet was for International Women's Day was that trans women exist. Yes, obviously trans women exist. Trans people exist. Trans people, not just trans women. In a follow up to that, a woman named Charlotte Clymer, who's the press secretary for human rights. The Human Rights Campaign. She talked about how Oreo's parent company, Mondelez International, has a perfect workplace equity score for trans people, great for trans culture, that sort of thing. But someone else tweeted in response to this tweet, said, Mondelez International is being sued for child slavery, which is kind of a perfect little microcosm for the perversion of the day, because you can so for context, Mondelez International is like it's a split off from Kraft Foods because the company split up in 2012 into two separate publicly traded companies, and one of them is Mondelez International. And
okay.
Mondelez International does some real evil shit. So, but like most of what they do that's bad is has to do with chocolate plantation or coca bean plantation. Coca beans are primarily harvested, even though they're from South and Central America, they're primarily harvested in West Africa. So the number one producers coca beans by like a mile is the Ivory Coast, followed by like Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon. And in 2021, Mondelez International was sued by 8 plaintiffs who were child slaves that were abducted from the country of Mali and brought to work on cocoa plantations in the Ivory Coast. Now, they're not the only ones being sued for this. Basically, every big chocolate company is included in this. So like Nestle, Mars, Hershey, all of them are included in this. Everyone's kind of guilty of using child slavery in their supply chain of cocoa bean. And not only that, but in both Ghana and the Ivory Coast, both companies have, Mondelez International has been found that be using cocoa beans that were grown on illegally taken or deforested national park land. So you have these cocoa plantations that go to like national parks, national forests, chop down all the trees and replace it with the plantations. Because of that, they've driven up deforestation in those countries significantly. And also, and they've done similar thing for palm oil plantations in Borneo. So, Mondelez International is an evil company.
That's why the cocoa beans taste so good.
Oh yeah, exactly. You can taste the children suffering. That's what makes it good. I'm trying to think of one of their slogans. I don't know. I was trying to think of a pun to mix child slavery and some kind of corporate slogan for one of their brands, but it's nothing's coming to me.
I mean, I've definitely worked at agencies with some of those companies, so yeah.
Oh, okay, so we can just cut that. We can just cut the whole thing out. Yeah, so that's kind of the sad thing about the sad thing about corporate tweet activism is
it can bite you in the ass.
And it's like what I talked about before with companies treating some of their employees really well, but then like their grunt workers like shit. Like you can pretend to be good guys and like have all these socially progressive values, but when it comes down to dollars, these places are evil. Like they support child slavery, they support deforestation. They'll only do things as long as it doesn't really cost them money.
Or they believe that women belong in the kitchen.
Yes, like Burger King, which was,
so bad.
Oh, so bad. That is a marketing blunder for the ages.
What's funny too, well, not funny, but for a lot of people, that multiple teams like approve of all these ideas. So, like, from agencies to clients to like CEOs, like they all approve of this idea. It's not just one person who's like, let's just tweet this out.
Yeah.
Months of ideas and like work done to get this campaign, and they all approved of it.
Yeah, because it's not like this is like, some company where they have like an intern just out of school, like writing all their tweets and he decides to have some fun. Like there's layers of control. If you ever feel bad at your job, just remember someone approved Burger King tweeting that women belong in the kitchen on International Women's Day. Ever feel incompetent?
And even like KFC asked them, like tweeted them to like take it down, and they said they wouldn't because it's getting so much attention.
Wait, so they said that on their Twitter, or?
Yeah, but they eventually took down their tweets.
But it's also it's also a little bit of a pink capitalism thing in that like they're saying they support women's rights or more inclusion of women, but they're saying they want to include more women working poverty wages as fry cooks. It's just a weird thing to say in general.
They did it just for clickbait to kind of get people's attention, and then they said, oh, this is actually a scholarship that we have for women if they want to work in our factories as chefs.
I don't know, it's weird because I even beyond the wording, the sentiment is weird, just because like I feel like women's rights are not going to be advanced working for $7 an hour frying burgers. Like not that there's anything wrong with that job. I'm saying there's wrong with like if you work cooking for a living, that's totally fine. It's just like my issue with it is just that like Burger King wants to like have more women, like their sentiment is that they want to have more women working minimum wage. It's just bizarre.
There's a lot of people though that actually like the campaign. Like they thought it was like such a great PR stunt, and like they're supporting women, and just like
like
so weird.
I know they have the saying any publicity is good publicity, but is that just like is that just a platitude, or is that actually true?
No, I mean it depends on what you're actually saying.
Yeah,
how you go.
I figured, because like I mean some publicity is ruinous.
I mean you go back to like cancel culture, and that doesn't always work.
You can spur on boycotts, and it's definitely not always good.
It's an endless rabbit hole.
Yeah, I guess like some attention through like does work sometimes. Like even if the publicity is really bad, like you take politicians who have significant amounts of controversy, even if they're saying you did bad shit, like oh he paid off porn stars, or he smoked crack, or that sort of thing. Like, their name is still out there, and it's the only name people are hearing. So in the end, even if you're only known for doing bad things, like it's like no one knows who the other guy is.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag. I don't know how to tell if something's been successful or not. But marketing's a tricky one.
It also depends on what you're marketing and if it's intentional or end goal is attention grabbing, and then like, oh, we're actually doing this for a good cause, but could have done it in a totally different way.
Yeah. Do you think it's gonna work? I mean, because everyone's just been, like, the only International Women's Day tweet from anyone that's gotten any attention is Burger King. So, like,
I mean, that's because it was kind of so offensive. It wasn't that.
Yeah, true.
I'm sure there's a lot of tweets and posts for International Women's Day. They just weren't as loud as Burger King's.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it was so, like you said, because it was so offensive. So do you think that was just part of their thinking? Like, do you think their idea was that, we're going to get people's attention, and then they're going to be like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's fine. That was a funny joke. Or do you think their idea was like, get like people virally offended at it? And then everyone will see our tweet and everyone will ignore everyone else's tweet?
No, I think they intentionally made it so that they'd get all attention, and they thought that it was a good idea and result in like people thinking that they give a shit about women, but it backfired.
Yeah. But like, even like I said, even if they did, like, even if that worked, they still want people to be fry cooks for no benefits and minimum wage. So
especially women.
Yeah, especially women, which is So speaking of things that have backfired horribly, that's going to be my segue into the beautiful mess that is Harry and Meghan's interview with Oprah Winfrey.
It was good to see Oprah for a while.
Yeah, what's she been doing lately? I haven't seen her in a while. What's
chilling in her mini houses with Gail and all her friends.
With her billions of dollars. And it's weird to explain to Zoomers who Oprah was and how she got so famous and why she's like this talk show host lady is somehow a billionaire.
But then disappeared, and now she's back.
Yeah, no, it was Oprah's an interesting character. She comes in at a time when there's very few black women on TV, and then just dominates the talk show circuit in like the 80s.
With one interview.
Yeah, and then and really, really climbs to the top, and then just disappears. Like she's a remarkable woman, but it was a very strange phenomenon just because of how dominating a presence she became, and just like how effectively she was able to monetize it.
Yeah,
because like you see with so many other like talented people that they'll be very talented, but they'll be controlled by the money behind the scenes. They'll be controlled by the producers, the directors, the studio executives. They'll see pennies of what they actually produce, but she walked away with billions of dollars, so good for her.
Yeah, and her own network.
Yeah, no, so and yeah, the difficulty is in explaining it is I still to this day don't understand how she became as big as she did, and how she managed to keep the money for herself instead of like it all going to CBS or NBC or one of the other outlets. It's an interesting life she's led. Anyway, yeah, she disappears from the spotlight and somehow lands the interview with Meghan Markle and former Prince Harry. And was there anything about the interview that surprised you?
No, but I mean, a lot of things seemed a little off or planned, even though the beginning of the interview, she kind of like clearly mentioned like, we haven't paid you, or you don't know any of the questions we're about to ask, just to like clear it up, which is
that is bullshit.
Suspicious.
That is bullshit. Like, they were definitely given the questions beforehand.
Right. I mean, you're definitely prepped with some questions or topics when you go on an interview so that you can like kind of plan your answers. And a lot of Meghan's answers were kind of vague and not specific enough, but
yeah, I mean,
it's
credit to maybe Megan is just like this well spoken and like this good on her feet. And maybe that's true, but I don't know, man. I think there had to have been some preparation for that. She had to have known some of what was
Well,
coming.
I mean,
Which,
she had
you know, I don't. To be clear, I don't fault her for that. Like I wouldn't want to do that interview unprepared and then have you know
everything just thrown at you. Yeah,
yeah, like a have a blunder or like a gaffe just be the only thing people talk about. Like she wanted to tell her story.
right.
But like in terms of the content of the interview, I don't think I was. So there was a couple things that surprised me and there were a couple things that did. What I had thought is that what I was more expecting is that this would have been Harry's decision. And the reason I say that is because, you know, Meghan has been a celebrity for quite some time, and I would have assumed was more used to media scrutiny. Again, not that she's wrong to not like the media scrutiny. It's just I would have thought compared to like Kate Middleton, who kind of
In that lifestyle,
grew up outside of the spotlight. I thought she might be a little more averse to the life of a princess, but you know, I was thinking, okay, Meghan's probably able to handle the media. Harry's just thinking that okay, I'm at this point, I'm definitely not going to be king because you've got William's kids ahead of me and then William. And then, so he knows he's not going to be king at this point.
yeah,
And he knows what happened to his mother and he said this in the interview that he saw echoes of what happened to his mother, Princess Diana, and then decided, "Fuck this, I'm out."
yeah.
I didn't expect I didn't expect this to Megan's story of struggling with mental health. I guess what I didn't expect is how much the royal family is like a cult. You know, they take your passport, they take all your money and shit, and like you can't do anything independently. Like everything is controlled by kind of the deep state of the royalty, like the media people and like the people who run the household.
You're forced to live
And
there.
exactly, and you can't leave and you can't get doctors on your own, and that was disturbing. I didn't expect that. I was expecting more. You know, I'm not the most sympathetic person to people who come from places of privilege and have millions of dollars, so I expected everything to be handed to them on a silver platter. I didn't expect like deep infrastructure, deep state of the royal household telling you no. That I did not expect.
Right.
That was a revelation for me. But it's like a cult in that in terms of physical barriers, there's nothing really stopping you from leaving, but there's kind of psychological and financial barriers created to prevent you from going against the house, and that struck me as being very cult like.
Yeah, that's why she called it an
Like,
institution.
yeah. She didn't go so far as calling it a cult, but you know, it has echoes of everything former Scientologists or former Jehovah's Witnesses or former Branch Davidians say about their experiences in a cult. Like it's they kind of control you through like these psychological barriers and shame. Like they control you that way. Even though so you think to yourself, you think about these people like, why don't they leave? There's nothing actually stopping through. Like they could run away. These people have their passports, they control their money, and you know, and they control access to their family.
Right.
Like there's actually a huge unseen barrier to leaving. In terms of like the accusations of racism against the royal family, I'm definitely not surprised at that one. Though I am surprised at how
Definitely not surprised.
no, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that comments were made, but I am surprised at how. But I am surprised how brazen and insult and like malicious it was. Like because you know, Prince Philip has said horrible things about Chinese people a whole bunch of times. So because you know, he's a 98-year-old rich white dude. Like of course he would say things like that. But what I wasn't expecting was them to come right out and say like, oh, if he has dark skin, he can't be a prince. That to me was surprising.
How dark will your kid be?
Mine? Probably not at all. Much. I mean, you've seen me. I'm a pasty fucker in winter.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to go that far. Like I was thinking more like making insensitive comments is something I would have expected, but I didn't expect them to have like an explicit policy that like the princes can't look black.
Right.
Yeah, it's a weird thing for me personally because I relish the downfall of the royals. So like I don't think anyone should be a prince. At the same time, I guess I have to have some sympathy for Meghan, even though like I don't think her kid should have been a prince anyway, not because of his skin color, but just because no one should be a prince. It's still a horrible thing to say. So it's a very weird situation.
Yeah.
But one of the things that surprised me was, I guess, yeah, one of the things that surprised me was that British are not nearly as supportive as I thought they would be, and I guess I didn't know just how much the tabloids in Britain had kind of turned everyone against Meghan, thinking, oh, she's this American succubus trying to take Harry away, and defiantly rejecting the royal lifestyle. I don't know. I didn't think anyone actually bought that. But so if you look at the polls, like people in England don't really support Meghan and Harry, but if you read the Irish Times, they're fully supportive because the Irish hate the British royal family more than anyone.
Yeah. It's because she didn't fit the mold.
Fit the mold. That's a dog whistle. Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, just beyond the British having problems with her being black, like, I wonder if anyone's kind of having memories of Wallace Simpson, just in that they're both American divorcees and kind of famous on their own, and now one of the princes has fallen for her and is absconding to the Americas. In some ways, it reminds me a little bit of Edward VIII, though Edward VIII was also a Nazi, so they had to get rid of him. My favorite part of this whole thing was just that now the Queen has to know who Tyler Perry is. The Queen.
It's a good thing.
I know it's just funny because the Queen is a 96-year-old rich white lady, and now someone on the staff has to explain to her who Tyler Perry is. Like, he makes these movies where he dresses up as a woman named Medea, gets into all kinds of shenanigans. It's quite hilarious. The idea that like Jeeves at the royal household has to explain to the Queen who the fuck this Tyler Perry guy is to the Queen is very funny. But also like, man, fuck you, Prince Harry. You definitely have enough money to pay for security. I know you do. You have all that Princess Diana money. You are don't be pretending you're poor on me. I have sympathy for Meghan because she's been through a lot, and mental health issues can happen to anyone. But also Harry, you have so much money, and I know you do.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. They were always going to be fine. Like it's not like Harry was ever going to like end up working at a drive-through and not have health insurance, like somewhere in South Central Los Angeles because he couldn't afford to live in. Like at the worst, he would have all of those exiled Eastern European monarchs who just lived with rich Western Europeans didn't still wanted for nothing and just lived out their lives in like a slightly more modest accommodation in Switzerland. Yeah, there's sort of how there's a glass ceiling. There's also a glass floor. There's only so poor you can get once you've been royalty. Someone's gonna take care of you at some point.
Yeah.
Unless you're Saudi royalty, in which case you definitely can be assassinated. You ever hear people think Queen Elizabeth had Princess Diana assassinated?
Yeah, there's a lot of theories.
Yeah, which is like completely insane because if the Queen was going to have anyone assassinated, it would have been Camilla. Because the Queen is like a very like divine right monarch, and she would have thought like, oh, this commoner's trying to like break shit up. Diana, who's a Spencer, she's a Marquess. She'd probably love Diana. If she were to have anyone assassinated, definitely would have been the commoner mistress of Charles.
Right.
The royals. What I really hate about, or what I love about this is, or potentially is that everyone hates Charles. No one likes Charles, and I would really love if when he became king, it just became like the impetus for Canada and Australia and New Zealand to become republics instead of constitutional monarchies. I cannot have that big-eared fucker on my money. Like, there's no fucking way. I'm not having that face on my quarters. That's not a kingly face.
Just pay by debit and you'll be fine.
Yeah, but I'll know. I'll know there's bales of cash in the banks being moved around and they have Charles's face on it.
Just invest in Bitcoin.
Oh yeah. Now Bitcoin. Oh wait, no. It's not about Bitcoin anymore. It's about Dogecoin. Now that's a face I can have on my money.
I mean, NFTs are booming now.
Yeah, the issue with cryptocurrency is that there is zero sum investment. Like you have to, like for you to make money off it, you have to sell it to someone who's willing to pay a higher price. Right. It's a whole you call it a greater fool problem. An investment that only makes money because someone's who's a greater fool than you to pay more money for it. It's zero sum. It's negative sum when you think about all the electricity bills you generate from mining Bitcoins. Not to mention them screwing me out of graphics cards because they're just hogging them all to do Bitcoin mining.
Yep.
Apparently, Iceland made a huge made a killing in Bitcoin because electricity is very cheap in Iceland because they use geothermal power from all the volcanoes, so they're able to use that for Bitcoin mining. Which is all of this is completely insane. Like using power to generate imaginary money with a dog's face on it, which like the owners then turn around and use to sponsor a NASCAR.
It's all branding, which is marketing.
I know, but that was the most ridiculous 2010Z moment to ever happen. Oh, that and Kanye West's cryptocurrency, Kanye West.
I never heard of all that.
It's just everyone has a cryptocurrency now.
That means nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But I always like to enjoy the fact that there's more money in Bitcoin than some companies, or than a lot of companies, actually. Let's see. What's a good example? What's a company that's like worth like $1 billion, but like not quite like $5 billion?
Oh, it's a good pocket.
Anyway, the point is, Dogecoin is worth $5 billion. So if your company is worth less than $5 billion, there's more value in Dogecoin than there is in your company that actually makes something.
Right.
Such a weird and stupid dystopia that we live in. Yeah, I love when like famously evil companies like just change their name.
You have to.
Yeah,
because people are just associated with that name.
Yeah, I'm surprised Monsanto hasn't changed its name because of all those documentaries about them. Yeah. Fucking Blackwater, the mercenary company, changed their name, but not Monsanto. Monsanto's just sticking with it. Yeah. Though I think like they got bought by like Bayer or something like that, but it's hard to keep track. Everyone just keeps merging and demerging and splitting, and it becomes like a very confusing trail.
Yep.
Yeah, for some reason, this tobacco company somehow acquired Kraft Foods. So if you ever wonder why mac and cheese is so good, because there's tobacco in it.
That's why it's so addictive.
Exactly. Grind up a little bit of nicotine gum.
Wacky tobacco.
Exactly. See, I'm looking for the next drug that's going to be legalized, so I can make money like all those people did with weed stocks. So I'm gonna be investing in medical cocaine and legalized psychedelic mushrooms. That's where the money's at.
What's your take on all these vaccines?
Well, I for one am just impressed. Apparently, the U.S. have everyone get their first shot by May, and that's insane. Like, because America has a huge population. Vaccinating 300 million people is a logistical nightmare. It's the shame of it all is that like Canada doesn't have any facilities to manufacture these vaccines on our own, so we have to like basically wait until other people are done, like people who have the countries that have the factories are done, and then we can have our turn. So,
well, I thought we have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like that's like America's gonna prioritize their own vaccines first. Like coronavirus was even slightly worse. Like we would get no vaccines until like all of the U.S. was vaxxed. Yep. Like we would get zero. They would be like, no, we gotta.
We're here first.
Yeah, we're taking care of our own first. But at this point, it's people have become aware that not having, or at least governments have become aware, not having vaccine manufacturing facilities is dangerous. It's not just an economic issue. It's a public health issue, because if this happens again and it's something worse, like it's something like smallpox where like 20% of people who get it die, then you're just screwed. Like your country is just screwed. You're not going to get a single vaccine until the countries with the factories vaccinate all of their citizens.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is like, I think there's a lot of news about vaccine hesitance, being scared of the vaccine, but I don't know how true it
I
is.
think a lot of people are.
You think? I mean, I would have just assumed that people just want to get back to normal.
No, I mean, remember that movie I told you to see, but I don't know if you saw it.
Which one was it?
Social something.
Oh
The
yeah,
doctor.
the social network one. Yeah.
Well, a lot of places get their information from one side, and if that one side says, this vaccine changes your DNA, you're like, oh, fuck that, I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really change your DNA, but
If you're told that,
yeah, no,
then
fair
you
enough.
believe it.
Yeah. Hell, viruses change your DNA. Everyone get vaccinated.
Some people think there's like chips implanted through this vaccine that can control you, and like, oh, fuck
Yeah.
this, I don't want this vaccine. I've never gotten a cold before or sick, so I'm not gonna get it. And just like, oh, it works.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's like the bubble cuts two ways. Like you said, like they're isolated, they don't get any information, and but on the other hand, so they're not getting information from my side of it, which means they can be more likely to believe vaccine conspiracies. But at the same time, I'm also not seeing vaccine conspiracies unironically, so I don't know the extent to which people are against the vaccines. Like I just think it's like some lunatic fringe, which it very well could be, because sometimes a lunatic fringe being louder gives the impression that it's more widely believed that it is. Like the flat earth thing was like that. Like almost no one actually believes the earth is flat. It's just like it was basically, it was a meme because there were a few people who did.
I'm gonna find you some flat earth people.
Oh no, I know you can find them. It's just definitely not common. Like if you did like a poll, if you did like a poll of like the general population, I would guess it was like
10%.
below. Yeah, I bet you would be like below 10% of the population. I want to find a poll on this. Like, there's also like the conspiracy theory, and then there's just being bad at science.
Also, the whole vaccine thing, like, what if your state has always been open since Corona? Then you kind of disbelieve everything that's happening.
Oh, that's a good point. Because then, like, you don't have any incentive.
It's like nothing changed, so I'm just not going to give a fuck about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because Texas, the government of Texas basically just declared they were on the side of the virus.
Texas and Florida.
Yeah, and like said they were opened up. So like, no one is thinking like, oh, I better get my vaccine so like I can gain certain privileges back, because they just like nothing's so like it's not going to affect their lives at all, other than they'll have a lower chance of getting coronavirus, which is like
to other places and then get other people sick.
No, exactly. Like so it's coronavirus isn't quite deadly enough for people to be afraid, like as they should be. 2%, a 2% chance of dying is, well, I mean, obviously it's much higher if you're older, closer to 20% if you're older. Like it's not quite, I don't think it's quite deadly enough to make people think that, to make people scared. If it was like half of, but like if you knew like if I get this, there's like a 50% chance I'll die, like I'm not taking those odds. But like, people are stupid and they think like, oh, it's 2%, it's not going to happen to me. Because like I always say, like our brains are not designed to handle statistics. I'm trying to figure out what percentage of people believe the earth is flat. Okay, Scientific American says, do people really believe the earth might be flat? Okay. Yeah, so it's unfortunately 18% of people who don't believe the earth is round.
Nice.
Oh, that's depressing. That's much higher than I thought it was. I was really hoping to be under 10%.
You underestimate people.
Okay, maybe there might be like further explanation, but I don't know. I just don't like that. I wish people would. I wish people would stop being stupid.
I mean, maybe they all live in Waterloo, your favorite place.
Oh God, don't make me think of that place. Like, there's certain towns I just can't visit because they're so depressing. Endless rows of the same house over and over again, and there's no sidewalks, and everything's just like a maze of cul-de-sacs. You just like you can't walk anywhere. Because there's no stores zoned near houses. I fucking hate the suburbs so much. I hate it so much. Like, and the horrible thing is like, there's huge suburban wastelands like Mississauga and Brampton that have like 1 million people between them. And like, it didn't have to be made this way. But now it's really hard to undo the shitness of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to undo the fact that it just feels like someone plopped some prefabs down in a farm field. You know, make the streets narrower, make the shops closer together, make it more walkable. Like, you can add public transit anywhere, but you can't, like, it's hard to, like, make the streets closer together, to make it more walkable. Like, that's very hard. And I don't know that of any successful example of, like, a city that's, like, desuburbanized.
Right. Just throw in some condos.
Oh my god, right? Like, and yeah, exactly. It doesn't make it better because the street layout's still fucked. Like, then you're just like, then it's just condos you put up in farm fields.
Yeah. All right, I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on social media, podcast_above on Twitter, and Above Average Podcast everywhere else. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Bye.